Whiteboard Podcast. This week, we're talking to my friend, Mason Molletta. He's been in the restaurant industry a long time. We talk about the homeless issue now that COVID has struck Los Angeles, as well as what it's like running a restaurant and hospitality business in Los Angeles. Let's get to it. Thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, I'm stoked, dude. Let's jump back into the conversation we're having. So you were working at Sidewalk Cafe, running the joint.
I would say some operations, yeah.
Sure, we'll take it. But you were telling us about the history of Venice Beach and where it was, maybe back in the 70s, where it started to go, and where it is now in 2020.
Yeah, lots of great history, and I think we were just touching on it before we started this, but you know, compared to how it's changed over the past 40, 50 years, and I was only there for 7.5 years, so I can speak on my experience from that amount of time. But one of the really cool facts that a lot of people don't know is that underground tunnel system, which I thought that was the coolest thing ever, from Prohibition, that links up a bunch of the properties and restaurants over there.
That's crazy.
So
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it sounds so cool, but I didn't tell you about this. There's so many issues created by that. The main one being it's just a great home for rats, I feel like.
Oh, really?
You got Splinter from the Ninja Turtle living on the side of this, brick wall of yours where they're all sealed up.
Is there a real rat problem?
In Venice, in general, yeah. And I think it's everywhere, but, underground tunnel system probably doesn't help the issue.
Yeah. That's awesome. A rat mecca.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, so you were talking about how back in the 70s, you could get property out there for a smile and a wave, and folks are moving in.
Yeah, and just the family that I worked for, my former boss, his dad and family just came and bought it in 1976, a few blocks for, I don't know the exact sum of money, but it would probably make your eyes pop out of your head compared to if you saw, a listing for it these days at, tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, beachfront property, man.
Exactly, in the cornerstone of Venice. So it's just to, see and realize that. And, for me is kind of whoa, can't believe I'm here after growing up in a small town from Northern California with more cows than people. So it was quite the change, from growing up. And it just kind of wore me down. It was just a nonstop people over the years, which is why I decided to, leave the LA area. But yeah, Venice, there's no other place like it.
That's for sure.
in good ways, and it's got, its issues as well.
One or two of them.
One or two. Yeah.
Ocean Beach down in San Diego has some of the similar vibes to Venice. It's not on the scale of what Venice is, but they're both places that you can go, and for no dollars, you can just go people watch and have the best time.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I've only been to Ocean Beach twice. That's just directly south of Mission Beach, right?
Yep.
Across the little bay,
the deal.
Or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
So you were talking about how it was it started becoming the Silicon Beach. Tell me about that.
Yeah. And I think that's starting to sputter out a little bit just from what I've seen. But, there was a time there, I'd say it was about 4 or 5 years ago, when you started to get some of these tech companies coming in, and these big names out of nowhere, the biggest one being Snapchat.
Sure.
Who just came and they built their headquarters, which turned out to be like a little Snapchat city with some of the commercial properties they bought just, less than a block off the Venice boardwalk. With that, it was, in my opinion, it was great, but you'd said a mixed bag in Venice if you start talking about these tech companies. You have this population that really likes to keep Venice. And the definition of that is, to me, it's a little broad, but from what I've seen, it's just keep it old, keep it weird, keep it everything originally how it's been. And
there's some merit to that.
There absolutely is.
Sure.
It sounds good on paper.
Yeah.
But there are some issues that have been created because of that thought process, I feel like. The major one just kind of being, infrastructure is a little rough in some of the areas. And then, the big one, which we can get into a little later, is what we've talked about, the homelessness down there.
Yeah.
But, Snapchat came in. They were the big, hot, new kid on the block there for a minute. And I think they were valued at like 3 or 4 billion or something like that, I believe it was.
Unreal number.
Yeah, just pumped up like that. And then that bubble burst, and, they've pretty much all packed up for the most part now and are gone, which when they were there, it was great. They had their own private security. And this is just my opinion of it being great. It cleaned up one of the streets where there were a lot of the transient homeless issues.
Sure.
And it really put in this little like safety blanket net a little bit to how it made me feel anyways, just seeing what was there before, and just really paving the way for it to actually change in this, the cornerstone of Venice a little bit. And once they got up and left, it just came right back. And
whoa!
And now it's with the pandemic on top of it, that area I feel like is worse than ever.
Just getting crushed.
I believe Google is still there. They came in a couple blocks away down, kind of on the closer to Venice, Santa Monica border.
Okay.
If you're ever there on Main Street, the building looks like binoculars, a giant pair of binoculars.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So that was Google. They moved into there. With those tech companies, that just kind of, the name locally sparked Silicon Beach.
Sure.
And, with that, property prices, commercial or residential, just
probably skyrocketed.
I mean, it was already high, but this just kind of pushed it to a new level.
Sure.
Than just what I've seen in the local area. But it'll be interesting to see what it does now, after this pandemic, and there's a lot of vacant, business spots obviously right now due to that. So did
you see a bunch of businesses shut down in Venice?
Oh yeah,
like permanently.
Mm-hmm.
That's super sad.
Especially
that sucks, man.
And especially on the restaurant side of things, as I'm sure you've experienced, doing what you guys do. But it's one of those things, especially in LA, where minimum wage is at $15 now, and it was already, for a lot of these smaller restaurant businesses, trying to adjust and adapt to paying that cost. I mean, you're going to places paying $18 for a cheeseburger now.
Yeah, you're like, wait a second.
Then this used to be $10 a couple years back.
Yeah.
So you had that issue, and then the pandemic comes along, and of course, just the taxes, property, and
litigation,
pretty much everything in general. Yes, and just the outside elements that you're battling there.
So a lot of stress businesses due to the political and business climate. And then you throw a pandemic on it, and
the pandemic really helped.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and that, I think a lot of it too with the guidelines, it just made it, almost impossible. It did make it impossible for some, which is why so many shut down. But there's a 50% capacity, only outdoor dining, and just from where I used to be to, they're very fortunate in that they actually own the building and the land. So, the rent cost is nothing like it would be if they didn't own it.
Yeah.
And on top of that as well, it's just, be invested in that real estate since the 70s.
Sure. Yeah, that'll make you have a good position.
Yeah, and then another factor too is luckily the majority of that restaurant was considered outdoor patio.
Sure.
So they were allowed to be open for the outdoor dining. Otherwise, it could have been a different story. But on top of that too, in Venice, it's all those different factors plus the social distancing thing now, and I don't know how any of them are hardly surviving.
I don't know
it's
either.
A special situation, kind of like where I came from.
Yeah, I don't know how it's gonna because it doesn't seem like this problem is gonna dissipate. It doesn't seem like it's gonna get better. It doesn't seem like LA is going to have a more business friendly climate. Like it seems like this is going to be a perpetual issue that's just going to keep getting worse. Like you said so today, and I'm not, this is even a political thing, but like you said that if you were out in Venice before 1 o'clock, 50 to 60% of the folks that are out there are homeless transient people.
Yeah. And right now, after that pandemic, that's exactly how it is. And Venice is so dependent on tourism.
That is the lifeblood, right?
Exactly. Oh, especially, most of it, especially during the summertime, is overseas.
Whoa.
And so in the mornings, there is a decent amount of tourism usually. And now it's just almost like, you have your normal locals out there, but, like I said, 50 to 60%. And just what I experienced and observed is a homeless transient population right now.
What a problem Los Angeles has on its hands. Like a borderline unsolvable, problem.
Yeah. It's really tough. And we were talking about how do you come back from this? And there's no easy answer. And I think we kind of, touched on, it's going to have to be something really up high from the top that, a little bit of an attitude change just overall. And I don't know how you implement or go about that, but it's going to take something big to, turn it around. I don't know what's going to,
I don't
the
either,
bubble.
man. Hey, I don't either. I think that's what I'm worried about, especially as a business owner here in California that works with, hundreds of other business owners. Like every single prospect meeting I go into, it is the same conversation.
Oh, I can imagine.
Hey, are you guys leaving?
Yeah.
They'll ask and we're like, no, we plan on staying here. And they're like, okay, well, we're looking at leaving. I was like, well, hold on. Maybe we can help, to help curb this, to keep you here. California is some of those beautiful land in the world.
It is. We're
with phenomenal people.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
And so you're in this position where you're kind of getting forced out to move, not because you've done anything to irresponsibly handle your business, but the business risk associated with running your business here or even starting a business here is unreasonable to contend with.
Yeah. And it really is. And like you said, it's probably the most beautiful, if not one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, California, you got Yosemite, and then you have some of the nicest beaches.
Yep.
I mean, being in LA or even here in Orange County, you're right next to the beach and an hour and a half, 2 hours away from snowboarding, skiing in wintertime.
Nowhere else can you do that.
No. And living, over Venice and then Hermosa, was there for 7.5 years. Never had an AC or a heater. And
Sure.
I don't know where
many
places you can do that.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's part of what's keeping the property prices high and what is keeping some people here because of that, geography layout. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately.
I'm totally with you. And
so you cashed in your chips and head out to the desert.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it, man.
And, touching on it again, it was a small town growing up. And, I want to move by the beach in Southern California. Not original at all.
Sure.
But made it work for, 7-8 years. And then just not so much living in the Hermosa area, but just working and spending, the majority of my life down in Venice for those years and just seeing all the issues and seeing how I would say mismanagement of these issues, it just kind of wore me down. And then nonstop people. So Yeah, I mean, thank goodness I got a great opportunity out in the desert, Palm Springs. So that, and I've only been there a few weeks, but it's kind of like a good little trade off of both. Palm Springs, you get a decent amount of tourism there,
Sure.
good amount of people, good sized place, but it's
Palm
not
Springs is awesome.
huge and a little spread out.
Yeah.
So far we're off to a good start.
Let's talk about some of the stuff while you were doing the operations over at Sidewalk Cafe. What are some struggles that like you had, personally running that, as well as like some stuff that, other business owners that you might have talked to or the owner of Sidewalk Cafe had? Like, what does that landscape look like? And
yeah, I mean, if you go talk to any business owner in LA, the first issue they're going to bring up is homeless transient.
For sure.
Issue.
That's the number one, you think? That's the problem?
If you go talk to any business owner and ask what the biggest issue is, I would say that's what it is. Yeah. Just the homeless transient issue in Venice. And this is just my opinion, obviously,
Sure.
down in Venice Beach. But that's what I've seen in talking to a couple of the others, business owners in the area as well.
And there's just no enforcement for it.
Very little. And there is so many rules. Again, it's, it just comes down to all this bureaucratic processes that, if you go talk, I've approached some police officers in the area and I can't get a straight answer. And, they're just doing their job when, I don't think we touched on this, but back to the guy on the grass that's sitting there smoking drugs, and the cops will go right by that. But then,
crack, not weed, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very different.
Crack pipe. This is I mean, it's Venice Beach.
Yeah.
Weed is.
It's inappropriate not to
if
smoke
you don't
weed there.
smell it, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And but yeah, a literal crack pipe. And I've experienced this a couple different times. The police will just look the other way, walk right by, and then they'll stop the tourist riding the bike on the boardwalk because you're not supposed to ride bikes. And that's just kind of the whole thing in a nutshell of how the priorities are just so skewed. And again, it's one of those things, I don't know how you're going to fix.
That's top down. That is top down. The police chief has been ordered like, hey, let's collect revenue from folks that actually have money.
Right.
And let's just let them do their thing. They're not hurting anybody. They're just on the grass. It's like whoever's making these laws just doesn't visit the places that they're governing at all. Like that's
a huge issue of it.
I think that's what it is. I think when
believe
someone makes a rule like, all right, well, you guys can, have half capacity at your restaurant and go outside. You're like, do you understand how a restaurant works? Like if we have the lights on and people are in here, we're not making money at half capacity.
Right.
Like that kind of stuff. Like we still have to have cooks. We have to have we have to have
Exactly.
servers, like all that kind of stuff. Like your margin's made
Right.
in that next 50%.
Yeah, and I feel like unless you are a true businessman and have, that rainy day fund, I think those are the ones that are still hanging on.
Yeah.
Compared to, these ones that just, have the ability through money, family, whatever, to open their restaurant and don't have a lot of business sense. And that didn't, have the rainy day fund. Those are the ones that obviously went first. But, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. There's no easy answer to the solution. And I think it's just going to be, and we talked about it too. You can just keep throwing money at it, but that hasn't helped or solved anything.
Yeah.
and since before we were
that
born.
is one of the things that I think if you tell a lot of politicians are like, the problem is these folks don't have money, there's not opportunity, and they conflate those two things very easily. If we just shovel money down somewhere, it'll solve the issue. They just don't have enough resources to do the job effectively.
Absolutely.
Which there's probably some merit to it sometimes, but unilaterally, that's not just a good, like, hey, just they need more money. Like these programs need more money.
Right.
Like it's not a money issue.
Mm-hmm.
It is a demand issue of drugs.
Yes.
It is a sense of meaninglessness in like the world that they find themselves in. Like all that kind of stuff is a problem. And I think it's a breakdown of our culture. I think it's a breakdown of family. And I do think it's like a lot more deeper seated issues than just.
It really is. And we touched on it too earlier. All this money, all these resources to help these people, but how do you help those that don't want to be helped?
For sure.
And down, especially that what I've experienced in Venice Beach, the majority of them, I'd say a large majority of these homeless transients don't want to be helped.
Yeah.
And, you know, that could be because of, you know, some of them having maybe mental health issues.
Most of them
like
probably,
that.
right? Mental health is a very, very tricky thing.
It is. There is a lot of that, but there is, just from what I've experienced again, a lot that just, that's the lifestyle that they're choosing to have a tent there, and they make a mess, they don't care. And, you know, it becomes, you know, if it's in front of a business owner's place, then it becomes the business owner's problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can call the police. They're not going to show up for hours.
Tell me about that program that they tried to implement in Venice. This is the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. So
you have a police calling service.
That's what it seems like sometimes. So a few years ago, Venice property owners, mostly business owners, worked with the city to implement a BID, which stands for Business Improvement District. Downtown LA has them. Santa Monica has them. A lot of, you know, bigger cities, I would say nowadays, I believe, have some form of one. So, but Venice is just such a different animal, and I'm sure every city has their, you know, own different issues. But for Venice, you know, the main thing that their focus is on is maintenance and cleaning, and then security, kind of to plug in and deal with hopefully smaller issues that the police just aren't able to because they don't have the resources, allegedly.
Sure. I bet not.
Yeah. So with the BID, I mean, and it does work great because you have all these issues. The big ones for cleaning and maintenance is always graffiti down there. Just you come in every day and your property is going to be tagged, you know, most of the time. So it is good to have that program to call and they'll come and just paint it out, which is great. I would say, you know, the other side of that is the property owners are paying all this money, and it's a line item on the property tax bill. So they're paying a pretty good chunk of money for these services. And, you know, it's one of those things where, wait, if we just didn't have this program and paid a company to come out and do this 2 or 3 times a week, it would be cheaper than paying into this BID program. Mm-hmm. But the BID, again, with that program, we just talked about the maintenance cleaning side of it. The security side, and that's the part where I don't see it working so great.
So they have this comprehensive plan that if you want one part, you got to get the other part.
Yeah, well, I mean, bids can be built out different, but, you know, the city and the business owners decided, these property owners, I should say, decided that those were the 2 biggest issues to focus on. So with the security, it's not great. I've seen it a couple times to where you can call the VID, which they'll show up pretty quick. You know, they do that, but they're just so handcuffed in what they can do. You know, it's not like they're full-on police officers. They're more of like a friendly security force. And if you have one of these people that was smoking crack out on the grass, wandering in front of your business, yelling or, you know, throwing trash, whatever it may be, you can call them, they'll come, but what are they supposed to do if they ask them,
sir, can you
please vacate the premises? Can you move? Can you get away? Can you quit sleeping in front of this owner's door over here?
Yeah.
And if they start getting angry, then there's not a lot they can do, and then they call the police, which it's, I mean, and there is, you know, there are definitely times where it does work well to, they just have them to come and shoo them away. But I've witnessed multiple times where, you know, these people don't really, you know, take what these big people
respect
are saying,
authority.
Yeah, seriously. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, call the cops in. I'm sleeping. Or
Yeah.
I'm going to sit here and yell and scream.
Yeah, I'm camping right now. Don't try to interrupt that.
Exactly. Don't mind the fact that I'm blocking public space.
Yeah.
So then it just, it goes back to what you said. It's almost like at some point you are paying to have a service to call the police for you. And then, the police, they have their list of priorities. So if you call on something like that, if they show up at all, it's going to be over, an hour.
At least. Yeah. That's
unless you stretch the truth and say this guy's got a knife, but you don't really want to falsify it. So then it's a rock and a hard place for so many of those smaller issues. Yeah.
So brutal.
Yeah. And
all right. So we have the homeless issue in LA, which is an issue. You touched on the minimum wage, which there's an argument for minimum wage somewhere, but that is also a major burden on business owners. Not only just the increased cost of your labor, which pass that off on the customer, which again you can do, but that impacts your taxes.
Right.
It impacts your work comp costs because it's a percentage of your payroll.
Yep.
So as you're, if you go from 10 to 15, premium goes up by 50%.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Mm-hmm. And if you were to ask what business owners would say in, LA, more broad term city, I believe it would be the minimum wage thing. But if you ask localized in Venice, I believe it's the homeless transient issue.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, the LA homeless thing's got to be a thing too. Do you know how many people are in Skid Row?
Good grief. I don't know.
A city's worth. It's 40,000.
Yeah. And
can you fact check that, Tyler?
Fact check.
Yeah.
And then,
Tyler, bring that up.
On
8,000 to 11? I'm just spreading fake news.
That's on Skid Row.
Oh, I've read different stuff. Can you do a different source so I'm right?
Yeah. And speaking of Skid
Row, or maybe it was 33. Go ahead. 30 or 40.
I was going to say that's another thing too with the pandemic. The Venice Boardwalk right on the border of Santa Monica. It's been 5 or 6 weeks since I was last there, but it was starting to pop up like a mini Skid Row.
Whoa.
On the Venice Boardwalk.
Just tents on tents on
right,
tents.
Exactly. And those businesses right there went out of business.
Oh,
so
no.
transients just started building, and it's almost like a little city out there, just right on the border of Santa Monica.
There's so many rules about getting that. So one of our clients that does, ironically, graffiti removal in LA, and as part of that bid process, I'm presuming, one of the things they're looking to do is homeless encampment abatement. But there's a lot of rules when it comes to that.
That's so difficult.
And that's one of those things that, like, you can't touch people's stuff. You move their stuff. You have to, like, mark down every single thing that they have. Like, it becomes such a... And this sounds like we're dehumanizing homeless folks because it is easy to do.
Right.
Because, like, that's legitimately what happens. If you're out on the street, you make a wide berth around someone who's screaming or sitting there. Like, it's just... people walk around these folks, and so there's this dehumanizing, like, but that's an actual human being that is living in hell and is suffering.
Exactly.
With that said, the amount of suffering that they are causing on these entrepreneurs isn't the same in regards to, like, what they're going through, but it is like, I've invested all my money, all my time for the past decade, and now I have this problem where folks don't want to come into my place of business, not because I don't have a good service or my food's not good or anything like that. It's because in the environment that is surrounding my business is actual garbage.
Yes.
And so so it's that weighing the balance is you have, like, the left saying, well, these are human beings. They have dignity in that, right? Which is perfectly true. That's 100% true. And you have the other side saying, well, these people are, like, causing major disruption in the economy. Okay, now that we have both of those same things and those same thoughts, how do they go together in a place where we can actually have real solutions to make sure that, like, we protect the dignity of these individuals at the same time protecting these businesses, so they can, keep employing people, keep paying taxes, like doing the business thing you're supposed to be doing, being a productive member of, the community.
Yeah.
So holding those two ideas is, like, the trick.
Yeah, it sounds simple, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, because it's so complicated.
Yeah, it's and again too, there's so much potential for Venice. I mean, it's the best people watching spot that I've ever been to. In
For
my
sure.
travels.
Like the locals there are like going over to watch the skateboarders. Like when I have people come into town, I take them all to Venice every single time because it's like one of those places. Like, well, you got to see Venice.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
You have to.
And yeah, just all the street performing, sideshow
so
kind
cool.
of stuff down there. And there is so much potential, but especially with it's just as the transient homeless issue increasingly getting worse. I don't know how to turn that around I don't think anyone has an easy answer for it, but it's one of those things that
There's some easy answers for it that would get you in trouble. But you need a complicated answer, like a well thought out plan.
Right.
And I think what's happening is like in that well thought out plan, you're going to have folks push back on a few of those pieces that like require relocating, require like some sort of like either city or state government or like sponsored, drug rehabilitation program.
Right. And I really think too, it's got to be a collective mindset change. And like we talked about, throwing money, I don't think that's done any good
that's the simple answer. The simple answer is like,
it always is. It looks like we're doing our part, but that's not solving the issues as we've talked about. So
that's the issue with the government. The government.
They're great.
It's
Uncle
like
Sam.
we'll just take money from folks that have it, and then we'll throw money at this, and the problem should get solved.
Yeah, that should even it out.
It's exactly. Well, the reason why these folks are homeless is because they don't have stuff. If you give them stuff, like it's like lottery winners. Like that is the perfect example of folks that think money can solve issues. Like, look at the history of folks that win the lottery and have more money.
I like that analogy.
Tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. The percentage of them that are broke. Can you look this up, Tyler, so I don't be an asshole again? Percentage of lottery winners that are broke within a certain amount of time.
Yeah, just a few years.
Just take a guess of the percentage.
The percentage that are broken
within 10 years.
Within 10 years, it's got, I'd say, at least 3/4.
That's a good guess.
70%. Oh, man.
70%.
70%.
So you're giving folks millions of dollars, okay? Which I don't have millions of dollars. Like, it's to have $1 million. To have millions of dollars in your bank account. Like, think about it, right? Everybody out of college is like, man, if I could just get a fucking 6-figure job within 5 years or 10 years, I would be stoked.
Yeah.
You have $10 million, so you could live on just $100,000 like forever, or just put that in a bank. You're getting guaranteed like 3%,
exactly,
4%, making $300,000 or $400,000, and just letting that thing grow, and you're just living off the interest.
Right.
You could do that, but 70% of people
don't do that.
Go broke. And the reason why is it's not a resource issue.
Exactly.
It's a lottery
winners are more likely to declare bankruptcy within 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5.
More than the average American.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
The whole idea behind that is like, all right, well, I mean, who are the types of folks buying lottery tickets?
Right. Exactly.
Right? You're wasting money. Of course you're going to waste money on other shit.
Yep.
And I don't know how you solve that problem. Like, this is a human condition problem that if people are unwilling to recognize, like, there's a human condition out here where people are irresponsible,
right,
and don't take the requisite care for themselves, and understand, like, and then just have this borderline victim mentality, which does happen. I guarantee you, if someone wins a lottery, you're going to have a lot of your dirtbag family and friends coming around. It's like, hey, I just need $1,000.
Exactly.
Please. Right? Yep. And he's like, well, I have $10 million. If I spend, just $600,000 on 3 Lamborghinis, I still have like over $9 million.
Absolutely. And I've seen.
I'm like, give me my 3 Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
I need it.
I need it. I don't want it. I need it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think that's.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because, I've seen a couple situations out there where because of the resources and because of, the lack of policing on these transients, I've seen a couple times where production companies come out filming movies. Obviously, Venice Beach, one of the best places to do that.
Yeah.
And they'll have their little scene for a shot that they want, and there'll be a homeless transient, on a bench, and they ask, "Oh, can you move?" And they say, "No, this is my bench.
I
own it."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I peed on it. I own it.
And they refuse to move to where the point the police have to get involved.
Whoa.
And there's just so many little things like that.
That's nonsense.
And again,
It
I've
is
seen
nonsense.
so many. Yeah, there's so many stories. I know, and I think I told you in the house, like I've had a gun pulled on or flashed at me twice out in just the parking lots that I used to manage. So there's a lot of outside issues there and there's so much room for improvement. It's just a matter of how.
That's a good way to look at it. That really is a good way to look at it. You come to a place like
you have to look at it.
Yeah, 100%. You come to a place like Irvine, we're at right now. It's like
complete night and day. Yeah.
Complete night and day, right? Safest city in America. Like room for improvement here. Like to get 1% improvement is very difficult.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
But for places like Venice, like if you just have someone come in and say, here's what we have to do. Like this is non-negotiable. If we want to actually turn our community around, these are the non-negotiables that have to get done.
Yeah. And with that, it's a way of presenting it to this population, this loud population, in a way that I don't even know how you could present it to them without getting pushback, because they are so set and opinionated in their ways. It's
ingrained in their ideology.
Exactly. There's not a lot of open-mindedness just from what I've witnessed out there when it comes.
Which is ironic.
It
right?
really
hey,
is.
You hippies out there, you claim to be open-minded, but dadgummit, man. It is remarkable how not open-minded that crew is.
Yes.
You're like, hey, if this doesn't fit into our box of what we think is right,
exactly,
not open for discussion.
And you can present a great idea, great business figures, great, improvement in just overall looks of a, business or building, but because that doesn't fit in with the old, shaggy kind of looking Venice stuff, they're going to outcry, and scream gentrification.
Yeah.
Even though it is something that is going to better the area.
Yeah. It would be nice to, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, you got them. It's absolutely, too, a part of it is it's yelling at these dang corporations. There's a lot of that mentality out there.
Which I hate. I also have a beef against the big corporations.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. But if you bring in something like, I know there was a pushback against Ben and Jerry's that came out there a while back, and they want to do
Ben
things.
Ben and Jerry's is so good.
Well,
why would you not want that treat in your community?
Well, that too, and the people that were doing it, or Venice local, amazing support. All the different issues in Venice and give back, hire local, and all that. But because it was a Ben and Jerry's and not a small,
individually run.
Exactly, because
Ben and Jerry's is like a very, very like left-leaning like organization run by hippies.
And that's why I'm saying that there is that population that's just that you can tell them or show them anything and you're going to get pushback because there's no changing their opinion. They're so set in their ways and they are always correct.
Man.
So and it is, I don't know how big the population is, but it is a loud population.
Sure.
Down there that,
typically that's how it works. The most open-minded folks are the ones saying, shut the fuck up. Let us talk. Here's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's always the loudest people. Man, that's
absolutely. So
all right. Well, that sounds like an issue that we need to talk about another time. Let's talk about a little bit more about the day-to-day business. So we started working together almost 2 years ago, right around 2 years ago.
It was more than that, wasn't it?
You would know better.
I think we're around 4.
Okay. Let's talk about it then.
Yeah, let's talk.
Yeah.
That was great. It made me look good. Thanks.
Yeah. So is that what it is? Did you get pushback from the owners, like whether to do that?
No, I just kind of this self-starter mentality on my end, and seeing the workers' comp for the restaurant. Yeah, I think we went from when I first there, it was maybe 40 or 50,000 a year, and it went up to over the 2 or 3 years after that, we were around, I believe, 130.
Jeez. So just another $100,000.
Yeah, and then and that's another thing, that these small business owners are facing, especially those in the restaurant service industry. And no one that was in our office was an expert on insurance. They just always had their two brokers who they knew and kind of went with, which they were great when it came to business and property insurance, but when it came to actual workers' comp, they didn't know a lot much more than we did, it seemed.
Sure.
And with that, my learning curve, it came in knowing nothing, but I know enough to know that when you see your workers' comp policy go from 50,000 to 130,000 over the span of 2 or 3 years, you should probably try and do something about that.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of, talking about it and knowing that we need to do something. And I just started Googling basically workers' comp management companies. And I think you guys did call around the same time I was starting this Googling process. So it was just like
because
the
we work with
perfect
Google
timing
to track every single time that happens.
Oh yeah, you're part of Silicon Beach over there, huh? Nice. Yeah. So just that first meeting, just having someone come face to face and show us all this back end stuff that we had no idea about, such as managing claims, the timeliness of it, and how you really do have to be on these companies to get stuff done and closed out so that X mod number stops going up so damn high. And just, I don't know how you guys, it was just you that came in and, pitched us, showing all the numbers that were like, oh, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to know that, though? I didn't
Well, you see it in the bottom line, right? You get your policy, you saw it go up like $100,000. You're like, all right, this happened for a reason. We know it had some claims.
But and I think the owners and myself, we knew it was going up, but we had no idea the processes that went into the reasons of why it was going up. So, and you were the first person I know that came in and explained that to them, and actually able to see what these reasons are and what these processes are that are pushing that, XMOD number up so high. Because I think our XMOD number doubled or more than doubled in that time. And, I'm really glad we pushed and went with Whiteboard, obviously.
Shout out
to Whiteboard. And I can speak to just seeing the numbers over the next, that first year we were with you guys that you managed our policy, it dropped from 130 to, I want to say it was 90. So $40,000 in 1 year. And this isn't, a marketing thing for Whiteboard or anything like that. This is just my experience dealing with you guys, from someone who started not knowing a damn thing about it. And I think the year after that was another, 10 to 20 saved, compared to being with our old brokers who, they would go out and get quotes, but there is so much more that goes into a workers' comp policy than just shopping it once a year. But I would have never known that.
Sure.
I don't think the average small business owners really aware of that either.
I don't think so either. And that's like one of the things that like we continue to press on is like, hey, just take meetings with us.
Yeah.
At the bare minimum, you are going to get educated on how the workers' compensation system works and how your claims impact your bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's another thing too. I think you guys are doing a great job, but just from what I saw in your house, if you can find, and again, my experience, these smaller businesses that are with a big dog like ADP, it has been awful for, what I've seen. I mean, if you're a small business, you got to realize you're just a small fish in a huge ocean with ADP. Like their priorities are with, their bigger, corporate accounts and, places like that. Customer service is terrible. There's absolutely, I've talked to a couple other businesses that have used ADP on a smaller scale. They have no relationship with them. They don't, and they're just not aware of, what really goes into, again, the workers' comp side of things. And it really is, a testament, I think, to you guys to be able to come out personally. And even if there's a claim, I get the paperwork for the claim. The managers of the restaurant bring it up, or our controller, whoever gets it, gives it to me. I literally just scan it. It takes 2 seconds, the paperwork, and send it to you guys. And, within usually an hour or two, I get a response saying, we're on it. You're fine. Don't worry. And then also, God, there's so much stuff that you guys do. It's compared to a regular broker. The management of it and being on these companies to get it closed out, that makes such a huge difference.
For sure.
And saves so much time if you are a small business owner.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Again, I don't know how these small business owners are supposed to really know that. I don't think you guys are doing your best to get out there and call and explain that to them. So I hope it works out, because I'm your guys, and I'm a big cheerleader.
Appreciate it, Mason. That's awesome, dude. I do remember. So I was, I think it was like the second meeting we had, or maybe it wasn't, you guys were already a client and we were just getting you enrolled into our EMT service. And I think you had one of your employees like working outside their work restrictions.
Yeah.
And one of your GMs came in and is like, well, I forget her. I don't remember the employee's name. She's working outside her work restrictions. Like, well, you should write her up.
Yeah.
She's doing that. And they're like, oh, we got to go do that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But it's that kind of stuff that like, I don't think most business owners and folks are scared of their employees to the point where they're not doing the appropriate operational things that they need to do to protect their business.
Exactly.
And so to not like to have like, operate your business with one or even two hands tied behind your back is extremely difficult. Exactly. And it makes sense too. Like, because we're living in such a litigious state.
Exactly.
There is that healthy sense of fear that's going on. Like, how do
it's very employee friendly
yes.
and employee protective, and where the business owners, it seems less and less protected. Absolutely agree. And that's, again, I think it's so important to just put a little effort into researching and, doing some due diligence when it comes to especially the workers' comp stuff, and especially if you're going to be doing a restaurant.
Yeah.
Because it makes all the difference. And especially California, you have all these other, high cost and taxes, minimum wage and all that. You got to save money and do your research and just, got to do what you can to budget and learn. And
it's so difficult. I can't imagine. The restaurant business has got to be the most difficult business to do in LA.
Yeah. And just all the pandemic restrictions. And again, it just all circles back to, I don't know how the hell, some of them are staying afloat.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to forever. I don't, like, that's where you said there's a bunch of businesses closing up. Mm-hmm. I appreciate everything you just said, man. I really do.
Yeah.
We work hard for like what we're trying to build here, and I'm glad it made a difference for you guys.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely. And I you know, if I'm ever in the position to have that power, I know who I'm going to.
Sweet. Thanks, dude. Like you said, there was a bunch of businesses that are shutting down, closing their doors. I think that's going to continue to happen. And I don't know where stuff goes, like in LA specifically. I think Orange County will be okay. I think San Diego will be okay.
Yeah.
Orange County's like been like comparatively much more lax when it comes to their what you're allowed to do.
Exactly. I was just there the other week, and it just feels different. It feels, you know, it's on the right path to normality again.
Sure.
Compared to LA, you know, where it's just, you have patios all the way out in the street now, which, I mean, it's great that at least they're allowing that for the businesses to try to adapt, but it's still not the same.
That's still cool. I went down to San Diego and Little Italy, and this is like probably 3 or 4 months ago. And the whole street was shut down just with the restaurants opening the doors and people are out in the street dining. I was like, this is cool. Thank God that these folks have the ability to do that.
Absolutely.
But most businesses do not.
Right.
And so that's the problem.
Exactly. And then plus, if you are one of these restaurants that you lose all that dining space, yeah, it's great you're able to move outdoors, but you're still paying rent on all that dead space.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know how you overcome that.
I don't know either.
I mean, unless
it sucks. It's really sad. I know we've had a few clients that have gone out of business that won't be coming back.
Yeah.
And these were well-run businesses, moderately well-run businesses. But they just won't come back. And it's not of anything that they did. They didn't treat their employees poorly. They didn't deliver a crappy service. Like they did. If you were to have like a small business, they were like, I did all the steps appropriately. I don't understand why we're here. And it's because you just have this, I don't want to get into politics, but you essentially, you have this king on high in Sacramento saying like, you guys, this is how you have to operate your business.
Right.
And that's so frustrating, and it's heartbreaking to see businesses close because of it.
It is. I mean, you see people just put their life savings and heart and soul into it, and you know, there's nothing they can do when it comes to these laws and restrictions that a lot of them have on them.
So I'm not saying this to like start a coup, but I do think there is a time. So my jiu-jitsu gym, I think I told you this, but like, I think it was a week and a half ago, 2 cops came in wearing bandanas, so not even appropriate masks, came in, and this is not the cops' fault, but fined the jiu-jitsu gym for all the participants not wearing masks. And so like in a sport like jiu-jitsu where you're literally sweating in each other's mouths, like that close, and you're like, all right, you think masks are really going to do it's like nonsensical rules. And I do think as a citizen, you do have a responsibility to not follow nonsensical rules.
Yes.
Like I think there's some time where civil disobedience is appropriate, and I think we are coming closer and closer to that point. I know there's a ton of businesses in Temecula that just said, fuck you to the government. We're staying open. I was like, thank God for you guys. It's so important. Like if you are a business owner, like we need to come together and say, hey, we're going to do this. And if you want to patronize our business and not wear masks, totally allowed to. If we're like going to run our business the way that we want to, is like, you have to wear a mask if you come in, then you don't have to come in.
Absolutely.
It's that mutual exchange. Like, hey, you don't have to come in here if you don't want. Here are the rules.
Yep.
And
it seems like it should be so simple and, you know, easy just to, you know, think about it. And again, it's so much of it is nonsensical. I'm glad Temecula did that. I know Big Bear did that as well for.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They just kind of, you know, gave middle finger to the government and opened up. This was back, I think, in June. So, you know, California did attempt to open up a few days after they said, you know, screw it. But, and, you know, for me, like, okay, that's great. I want to go check that out. And it, again, nothing to do with politics. That's how I feel like. Yeah. And for me, it's I don't have family around, so it's not, I'm not afraid to, you know, get family sick or anything like that. And it's just, for me too, my body seems to do good against viruses. I've haven't had the flu in 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's the bacterial stuff that gets me. So
Because you
it's
probably
like,
take care of your body. And that's something that nobody's talking about. Like, hey, you should actually take care of your immune system, take care of your body. Let's talk about that. Obviously, let's protect the folks that are vulnerable for sure.
absolutely. But, you know, it's to what extent?
Yeah.
It's
Do we want to protect the public from people driving cars? Do we want to protect them from cold and flu viruses? Do we want to protect them from all the things that can go wrong in the world? And is
Yes.
that level of protection mandated by the government? Or should you take some semblance of responsibility of your own life to do that?
Yeah.
And to the extent that people don't do that and then push that responsibility on the government, well, you're starting to see the formations of a tyranny.
Yes.
And that's a scary word to say, but I do think that that's where this goes. I think that is, and nobody thinks it can happen to their society.
Right.
Nobody's out there thinking like, oh, it could happen in the United States. We have like the most prosperous, beautiful, like well-regulated country that has ever existed of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's happened in every single other society it's ever happened, as there has been a collapse. And it doesn't happen from outside invaders coming in.
Mm-hmm.
It happens internally.
Inside. You
Yeah.
bet.
So that's the part that I'm most scared about in regards to the state of our union as well as our state of California.
Right. And I think it's so interesting too to see how states are starting to handle it so differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got California over here that's still pretty closed up.
Yeah.
And compared to Florida that just said, screw it, we're opening.
We're doing it. Yeah. And it's like and there's cases for both. Like you could make a case
absolutely.
at the beginning, like let's absolutely shut everything down. Let's keep this like exactly, contained as we can and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And like we did that.
Right.
And now this is turning into a political issue. And that's what I object to, like fundamentally. Like you've now turned this into a weapon to morally beat down your opponents. You're like, well.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And then, you know, another thing too that the restaurant industry, another problem that came up from that is, you know, the unemployment thing, the $600 a week. We couldn't get people back to work.
I bet not. You're like, hey, why would I? I'm good, homie. I'm making way more money right now.
Yes. So, and that was just, you know, it's just another layer of, you know, head scratching. Like, okay, how do we adapt? How do we find a solution to this?
Yeah.
And there is no easy one.
Mm-hmm. Well, what you're saying is you're seeing a experiment in socialism. Like you're
exactly.
Like a small experiment. What happens when you disincentivize folks to go work? They don't work and they don't want to. Mm-hmm. Like it's crazy.
I can get paid.
Every single one of our clients is saying the same thing. It's like we are back operational, ready to go. We just can't get anybody to come back to work.
And I get it. I wouldn't want to go wash dishes for minimum wage when I could sit home and you know get, what was that, $600? It was equivalent to $57,000 a year, I believe, if I did the math correctly. I get it, and again, it's a system thing, and the government, I get what they were trying to do, but you're putting Band-Aids on a problem that's going to be a lot more long term.
Yeah, we just keep kicking the can, man. That's all we keep doing. It's like, all right, this is the next generation. Let's print some more money. They'll figure it out. It's a nightmare.
Let's keep passing a couple $1 trillion.
Yeah, no big deal.
Plan,
We can print it for free, and then it's there. Mason, thank you, dude. I really appreciate you coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is the first thing like this I've ever done,
hey,
so I probably rambled
dude.
a little bit, but
Tyler, you do okay? Great. Yeah, you crushed it, man. Really
hopefully this microphone cuts out my lisp a little bit. But I think we'll be all right.
Lisp? That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much, Mason.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.